A single piece of paper, fragile, faded, and nearly forgotten, entered an international courtroom and forced powerful lawyers, historians, and diplomats to stop speaking mid-sentence. For years, maps had been used as weapons in a silent struggle over the sea. But this one was different. It wasn't drawn by modern satellites or shaped by political agendas. It was more than 500 years old, and according to the argument presented that day, it challenged one of the most controversial maritime claims in modern geopolitics: China's 10-dash line. What followed was not simply a legal debate, but a collision between history and power, between ancient knowledge and modern strategy, and between competing stories about who truly understood the sea long before international law existed. The courtroom air felt heavy as the document appeared on the screen. Diplomats leaned forward, translators paused, and journalists stopped typing as the faded ink revealed coastlines and handwritten notes from a distant era. For decades, debates about the South China Sea focused on naval presence, economic zones, and modern interpretations of sovereignty. But suddenly, the discussion shifted toward historical legitimacy. A centuries-old Filipino map, rediscovered in a quiet archive, had become the center of global attention. Long before the courtroom moment, the map rested unnoticed inside a dusty academic collection maintained by a historian named Mateo Rivera, a fictional researcher whose lifelong obsession was maritime cartography. Rivera believed maps were more than navigation tools. They were living records of culture, trade, and identity. While cataloging colonial-era manuscripts, he noticed unusual markings on a parchment hidden between unrelated documents. Unlike European charts he had studied, this map featured local naming traditions and navigational routes, suggesting indigenous or early Filipino authorship. The coastline outlines appeared precise despite faded ink, and annotations hinted at knowledge passed down through generations of seafarers. Intrigued, Rivera began cross-referencing early explorer accounts, linguistic patterns, and historical trade routes. The deeper he went, the more convinced he became that the map held significance beyond academic curiosity. Yet he hesitated to reveal his discovery publicly because maritime disputes in the region were politically sensitive, and any historical evidence might be pulled into geopolitical conflict. For months, he worked quietly, unaware that his research would soon draw him into a global legal confrontation where historians, lawyers, and politicians would battle over the meaning of lines drawn centuries earlier. The South China Sea had long been a region of overlapping claims and strategic importance. Nations surrounding its waters viewed them not only as economic lifelines, but as symbols of identity and sovereignty. Modern maps and satellite images dominated headlines, but historical narratives often shaped deeper arguments. Competing sides frequently referenced ancient voyages and early charts to support their claims, believing that history could legitimize modern positions. When Rivera presented preliminary findings at a small academic conference, an attending legal advisor immediately recognized potential implications. Within weeks, Rivera's quiet research transformed into a high-stakes investigation involving historians, archivists, and international legal experts. They debated whether the map might challenge interpretations associated with the 10-dash line by showing a different historical perspective of maritime awareness. Rivera felt both excitement and anxiety as he realized that scholarship could become entangled with diplomacy and that every interpretation would carry consequences far beyond academia. The legal team understood that a single map could not determine sovereignty, but it could influence narratives shaping legal arguments. They conducted detailed analysis, examining ink composition, paper fibers, linguistic structure, and cartographic style. Experts compared the map with other charts from the same era, searching for patterns indicating authenticity. Some features suggested local knowledge rather than foreign interpretation, strengthening claims of Filipino origin. Critics argued that maps reflected the biases of their creators and should not be treated as definitive proof. Rivera agreed that maps were never neutral. They were expressions of perspective. Yet he also believed that historical perception mattered. As news of the discovery leaked, media outlets portrayed the map as a potential game changer. Rivera suddenly found himself answering questions about authenticity and meaning while navigating praise and criticism. Social media amplified emotional reactions, turning scholarly debate into viral controversy. But Rivera remained focused on careful interpretation. When the map entered the fictional courtroom, it shifted the tone of proceedings immediately. Lawyers framed it as historical context rather than absolute evidence, emphasizing cultural and navigational knowledge embedded in its design. High-resolution images displayed intricate coastlines and annotations in early Filipino language forms. Observers debated whether the map indicated political boundaries or simply navigational routes. Rivera explained how early sailors might have used it to guide journeys across trade networks connecting islands long before modern borders existed. Opposing counsel challenged the interpretation, arguing that historical maps rarely defined sovereignty. The debate revealed the difficulty of applying modern legal frameworks to ancient artifacts. Rivera felt the weight of representing history responsibly, knowing that misinterpretation could distort understanding. Outside the courtroom, the story captured public imagination. Universities hosted debates about historical cartography. Students questioned whether ancient documents should influence modern disputes, and analysts argued over the map's potential impact. Rivera struggled with ethical concerns, insisting that presentations include transparency about uncertainty and alternative interpretations. He emphasized that the map added complexity rather than simple answers. Meanwhile, advanced imaging revealed hidden layers of ink, showing revisions made by the original cartographer, suggesting evolving knowledge rather than fixed authority. The courtroom discussions gradually shifted from questioning authenticity to interpreting meaning. Experts acknowledged the map as genuine historical evidence while disagreeing about its legal significance. This turning point transformed the debate, demonstrating how history could challenge assumptions without delivering definitive conclusions. As proceedings continued, Rivera reflected on his own journey. He remembered childhood fascination with old charts and realized how unexpected paths lead to moments of global attention. Cross-examinations forced him to clarify the difference between cultural perspective and political control, and his balanced responses earned respect from observers. The fictional judge emphasized nuance, reminding participants that history must be considered alongside modern evidence. Media coverage evolved from sensational headlines toward deeper analysis, highlighting how storytelling shapes public understanding. When closing arguments arrived, lawyers described the map as a symbol of alternative historical viewpoints deserving recognition. Opposing arguments stressed that modern law depends on contemporary agreements rather than ancient interpretations. The courtroom became a place where centuries of history met modern diplomacy. Eventually, the court acknowledged the map as valuable historical context, contributing to broader understanding without declaring it the sole determinant of legal outcomes. Rivera felt both relief and humility, recognizing that history rarely provides absolute answers but encourages deeper conversation. After the case, museums expressed interest in displaying the artifact, scholars collaborated across borders, and educators used the story to teach critical thinking about historical sources. Standing by the sea months later, Rivera watched waves move endlessly across contested waters and realized that while borders change and claims evolve, the ocean remains constant. The map's true legacy was not destroying any single claim, but reminding the world that history is layered, complex, and open to interpretation. A fragile artifact forced powerful institutions to reconsider narratives, proving that even forgotten pieces of the past can reshape the future. And if this is your first time watching this kind of deep documentary storytelling, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next story where history, mystery, and truth collide.